But instead, Republicans are trying to bastardize the term DEI to be a slur. When Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson was up for confirmation and when Vice President Harris was added to the ticket, they called them DEI hires. They want you to believe that a Harvard graduate with over 20 years of experience, who happens to be a black woman, is not qualified, but a Fox News personality is qualified to run the Department of Defense, and the WWE executive is qualified to run the Department of Education.
Hey, listen. I need you guys to understand and listen. That is straight bars right there. All right, so here we go again. And when it comes to these conversations, it is important that you and I, we understand as much detail as possible when it comes to these conversations. Yes, I know talking about DEI or affirmative action is not sexy, is not cool. I know myself as a creator is not going to get me millions of views off this video, but that's not the point. The point is when we engage in these kind of conversations, we at least kind of know what the hell we're talking about. So when someone comes to you or you find yourself in a conversation talking about DEI, and if someone believes that it should be taken out of, government jobs or whatever the case is, then you can have somewhat of an understanding of how that's some bull, and hopefully you can learn something from this video. I got a lot of notes here, and that's what we need to do. So I know this is a reaction channel. Sometimes, it is fun making fun of like the Candace Owens and the Ben Shapiro's, like that's fun. But at the same time, we need to make sure we're educating ourselves so we don't look like the idiots having these conversations that don't know anything. Historical context, no data, no nothing. You're just talking just to talk. So once again, for those who don't know what DEI is, let me go ahead and break this down to you like a fraction. Get your pens and paper out. DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Diversity is having a mix of different people within unique backgrounds, experience, and perspectives like race, gender, age, or abilities. Equity, making sure everyone has fair access to opportunities and resources, recognizing that some people may need extra support to succeed. Inclusion, creating a welcoming environment where everyone feels valued, respected, and able to contribute. Once again, reading that, it doesn't sound like it should be something that Republicans, first thing that they want to do is get rid of. Like, honestly, like what sounds negative about that? And even implemented in a workspace. How is that bad? You know what I'm saying? But once again, to understand what's going on now, you need to understand the origin. Where all this stems from is affirmative action. And if you don't know what that is, hey, guess what? You don't have to do any Google search right now because I done did it for you. So affirmative action was a policy that was implemented during the 1960s. And affirmative action is a policy that gives opportunities to groups of people who have been historically, keyword, historically, discriminated against, such as education, jobs, or government contracts. That means to create fairness and help reduce inequalities by considering factors like race, gender, or ethnicity when making decisions. So, if you know anything about American history, the civil rights movement, segregation, redlining, anything like that, you will understand something needed to be done. And I know a lot of people don't like government and government shouldn't be this and this and this, but you have to understand if people are segregating a group of people on purpose, the government needs to step in and make sure people are living incohesive as best as possible. It's not going to be perfect, but it's better than what was happening during segregation. Now, I know some people might have their own opinions about segregation might be better, but in my opinion, no, because somebody's going to get the short end of the stick. And if the government continue to only cater to one group of people and not the other, that's not going to work. So why is affirmative action needed? One is education. Generations of segregation left many black students with fewer resources and opportunities compared to their white peers. Employment, workplace discrimination persisted, limiting Black Americans' access to higher paying jobs and leadership roles. Economic disparities, historic practices like redlining and wage inequalities created significant wage gaps between Black and white Americans. That's why. And that's just a small list that I could think of throughout the day, is how a environment, a community is purposely being left out of opportunities, how that affects education, employment, and other opportunities. That group of people is not going to have fair opportunities. So what needs to happen? Something needs to be implemented to make sure there's no discrimination through education, job opportunities, so on and so forth. Like, something needs to be done. And that's where affirmative action came in. So let's go ahead and listen to Miss Summer Lee. Once again, another Black sister doing her thing and representing and knowing. Once you listen to her, you know this is coming from a real place and not something that, you know, she just kind of grandstanding just because she's Black. So she kind of feels the need to say some things about this. Like, you can hear the conviction in her voice. And individuals like this, I don't care what you think about the Democratic Party, we need to continue to support people like this because they actually care, not just about Black communities, but care about people in general. Those are the kind of people we need to continue to lift up. So let's go ahead and take a listen.
Mr. Chair, I'm not in favor of the Dismantle Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Act, or what it maybe would more aptly be called the dismantling any semblance of support or opportunity for certain American acts. We know who those Americans are. Americans who have not enjoyed centuries of unfair advantages by keeping others enslaved or segregated or disenfranchised or incarcerated or redlined or gerrymandered or excluded by law. Americans who've lived with disabilities or had their relationships criminalized or their gender expression demonized. If we're being honest here, this bill, which will wipe out every diversity, equity, and inclusion program in our federal agencies, plus those who contract with us, plus those who receive grant money, plus our schools, is nothing new. This is just the final piece of a decades-long obsession with targeting and dismantling anything that might give marginalized people a fair shot, including DEI programs, which honestly started the second the Civil Rights Act passed. Policies like affirmative action and diversity, equity, inclusion are the closest things we've had to the mythical bootstraps that some of my colleagues insist historically and currently harmed communities need to pick themselves up by.
Hold on. See, I don't think you guys caught that, okay? You need to understand, if you're telling a group of people they need to lift themselves up by their bootstrap, which someone has explained, if you're laying on the ground and you're trying to use your bootstraps to get up, it is impossible. But okay, that's not the case. Okay, just go along. How do you expect them to do that if institutions are purposely keeping them out? Once again, through education, from as long as we can remember, education, job opportunities, and other institutions have been historically proven to keep Black and brown people out. So once again, that's where this originates from. And soon enough, we're going to get to, you know, how some white folks are saying like this is reverse discrimination or racism, but not acknowledging the source of the issue. You know, like, but okay, let's continue.
After centuries of efforts to keep us out of schools and universities, from jobs and elected office, Republicans targeting these policies are no accident. Why do predominantly conservative white men believe that the success of a Black person or the opportunity or access of a Black person is an existential threat to them? DEI is not given any unfair advantage that society itself does not already confer on certain Americans. It merely exists to ensure that all other people, that women, minoritized folks, queer folks, disabled folks, have the same opportunities to succeed and thrive in our workforce and our schools as people who have not had those opportunities systematically and legally stripped from them.
So once again, a lot of people get confused on what affirmative action or something like DEI it's supposed to do. It's not just taking some random bum off the street who has no idea of, what's up and down and left and right and putting them into a position that they're not qualified for. That's not what that means. If you, for some reason, believe that, you've been lied to. And you need to talk to that person who lied to you. But that just means, historically, when you have, 2 white people and 5 black and brown people who are equally qualified, but for some reason, jobs or education or whatever the case is always choosing the white person instead of the black and brown people who have the same, if not more, qualifications. Once again, this is all public information, historic information that is easily accessible. We're not making this up. This is not just something that just came to someone's idea a few years ago. It's a historical reason why something like affirmative action was implemented. So there you go.
Is our country not greater when all of us have opportunities to succeed and contribute and survive? Our success and our survival as a nation is bound together. Diversity, equity, and inclusion programs only exist to band-aid over decades, hell, centuries of discrimination against people's skin color, their religion, disabilities, gender, or sexual orientations, you name it. Contrary to Republican conjecture, remedying past discrimination is not, in turn, a discrimination.
Oh, hold on.
And we're remedying these gender or
Listen, I need you to listen real hard on this.
Sexual orientations, you name it. Contrary to Republican conjecture, remedying past discrimination is not, in turn, a discrimination.
Just think about that for a second. For someone to have the audacity to say something like affirmative action or DEI is reverse racism means that they have to acknowledge that the root cause was because of racism. So let's just say, hey, for kicks and giggles, we want to get rid of DEI and affirmative action. Okay, cool. But how do you remedy the first issue, the cause of this? Just to let things just kind of happen? Once again, if we're not a people to repeat history, we need to understand how history had treated that before. So it's just confusing how some people will swear up and down on hand on a stack of Bible saying that there's no such thing as racism, but DEI is reverse racism. Well, before you reverse, there needs to be a start. And if you want to get rid of something, you need to damn sure be ready to replace it with something that will actually work, or we're going to be back at square one. Like Brian McKnight, we start back at one. And unfortunately, in 2024, it doesn't make sense to with policy and legislation to go back, 60 something years? Like that doesn't make sense. And Republicans, they're not good at coming up with solutions, with plans. They may have concepts of a plan, but unfortunately, I don't trust them to be responsible enough to get rid of DEI or affirmative action, whatever they're trying to get rid of, and replace it with something better. Because Trump hasn't showed that during his first term, hasn't shown nothing between 2020 and 2024 that he has plans. So I'm not led to believe he's going to have a plan now.
And we're not going to sit here and pretend racism is over just because one black person on the Supreme Court agreed that it should be. What DEI does not do is give some kind of magical pass to better jobs, like some of our colleagues are implying. That middle word, equity, does not mean more than or better than. It means treating people fairly and impartially. It means working to fix generational and systemic discrimination to the betterment of all of us in all of our institutions. But instead, Republicans are trying to bastardize the term DEI to be a slur. When Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson was up for confirmation and when Vice President Harris was added to the ticket, they called them DEI hires. They want you to believe that a Harvard graduate with over 20 years of experience, who happens to be a black woman, is not qualified, but a Fox News personality is qualified to run the Department of Defense, and the WWE executive is qualified to run the Department of Education.
Hey, listen. I need you guys to understand and listen. That is straight bars right there. Once again, why are we allowing people I don't know what other words, racist people to sit here and say someone like a Harris or Jackson have the audacity to say that they are a DEI hire and using that in, like you say, in a slurish way, not in, I mean, I don't know how else you could use that word, but trying to defame them by saying that they are a DEI hire. And Trump is literally just hiring people because they're on TV or he's real close buddies with them. Don't come to me with no whack ass argument and you are supporting an individual who's just hiring people because he's friends with them. If that's not DEI at its best, according to their terms and definition, I don't know what is. That's just weird to me. So
let's be real. There is an attempt to create a direct correlation between our race, being a black person, and our qualifications. So much as to say that there is no way to be a black woman. There is no resume that a black person could have that would qualify them unless that black person is a Republican. And there is a quota there. And while all of this is happening at the top level of our government, I can promise you these same things are happening on every single level of government and private sector. But those people don't have a national platform to speak out against discriminatory treatment. Where is a federal worker supposed to turn when another coworker says a racist comment to them in the break room? Where is the same-sex couple who is denied housing supposed to, because of their relationship, supposed to turn? Where is a pregnant woman who was fired for being pregnant supposed to go? Often the only place that they have to give them recourse are the diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. These folks just want to do their jobs, serving the American people in an environment that feels safe and supports them. Making work a better, safer environment for some does not mean it automatically is worse for others. And those complaining about DEI training are probably the ones who need it the most. My Republican colleagues have got to stop punching down on already marginalized communities and face their own fears of a level playing field privately. It's shameful. I yield back.
Once again, just because we understand, and the data backs this up. This is not something, like I said, that is just randomly trying to be implemented because of, the sky is blue or something. It's historical data. Like an example that comes to mind, the GI Bill. The black Americans that served their country, when they came back home, they were still treated wrongly through segregation and cut off opportunities that their white counterparts had when they came back from serving. Can you just imagine how much financial just opportunities those families have lost? And they served their country. That's just one. You know what I'm saying? So let's not pretend as if there wasn't an issue in the past. And like I said, however you feel about affirmative action or DEI, we can have that conversation. That's what that's supposed to be. But just to say we're going to get rid of this because we don't like it, but then not try to solve the root issue as if it's not still an issue today. Like, if you believe racism doesn't exist today, then I guess that's where you fit in. But that's incorrect. And you just refuse to see that. So if you want to get rid of something, you damn sure better be ready to replace it with a better idea. And if you can't articulate a better idea, then I'm sorry, but you don't belong in this conversation. You need to have something to replace it with. Or we're going to repeat ourselves. Because once again, the data is there today that shows that. The disparities between white and black people on just about every level, it still hasn't increased since the 60s. You see what I'm saying? So once again, if you want to understand what's something that has been implemented today, you need to understand its origin. And if you do that, then we can have a more honest, more faith-based conversation, and then maybe we could come up with some solutions. But if you're just ignorant about the whole thing, you're just going along with someone said on the internet, then unfortunately, you're going to be the idiot in that conversation. So there you go. But once again, if you guys agree or disagree with anything I said in this video, let me know in the comments down below, or hit that Discord button so we can have that one-on-one talk. And like always, let's have that conversation.